So, being able to speak articulately and compellingly is probably the single most important skill for you to develop if you ever want to have any kind of success in business, relationships, basically anything that is people related. As long as you're not locking yourself in a basement and you're gonna just be a trader for the rest of your life, you're going to need to develop this skill of speaking and oratory. Put my little school cap on. I kind of look dumb as fuck. Nah, you can't even see my face. If you don't know who I am, my name's Chris Langton, and I've used the skill of speaking to have success in business myself. That's why I'm able to speak about it, otherwise I wouldn't be. I managed to scale my own marketing agency from 0 to 20K in just 11 months, and a huge part of that was my ability to sell, right? I closed all of those sales myself, and I used obviously my persuasive speaking ability to do so, right? And I've been public speaking since I was 6 years old, right? I was the valedictorian of my kindergarten class. I gave a speech to about almost 100 parents when I was 6 years old, right? So I've been doing public speaking for a long time, and I've picked up a couple of things along the way and some techniques that are going to hopefully serve you. All right, so you know the drill, all of your dream outcomes, blah, 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 they're all at the end of this video, right? So just watch it through to completion because it's actually really gonna open the door to a pretty advanced speaking technique that you probably don't know about, right? And I recorded this as one of 6 modules in the speaking and oratory course that I made for my community. So I'm uploading that today because frankly, I haven't had time to record anything. So this is what you're getting, but nevertheless, it's gonna be extremely valuable. So I hope you enjoy it and I'll see you at the end. Peace. Hello, gents, and welcome to Advanced Module 1 of the speaking course. Now, I'm super excited to get into this because we're going to cover an advanced speaking technique here today that I think you guys are really going to like. So let's get right into it. Okay, this is going to be some ninja level shit. Okay, this technique that I'm going to cover in this particular module is really not basic at all. Like, we're starting the advanced course off difficult. It's hard as fuck. Okay, this technique is going to take you years, right? Months at minimum to really get good at, let alone master. Okay, and I wouldn't say that I've mastered this technique, but I've been doing this for a few years now, and it's really made me much more of a captivating speaker than if I hadn't had this technique in my arsenal. Okay, so just a preface, it's gonna be some ninja level shit, it's gonna be difficult, okay, but this is why I think it's fucking exciting, because if you can get really good at this technique, you will be extremely moving and extremely captivating. People will have no choice but to really want to tune into what you say. And so if you want that, you really need to pay attention to this video because that's what we're going to cover today. It might seem, it might seem like too esoteric, or it might seem too obvious, or it might seem too, too weird or something. I don't care. Okay, this is extremely effective. And if you can really master it, there's no telling how good of a speaker you can be. All right. So the technique we're going to call this the stone path technique. This is what we're going to talk about today. So this is a technique for speaking and articulating your thoughts. Many of you will feel like you have this problem, which is I have all these thoughts that seem really clear in my mind, but then when I start to talk and I start to speak them out, right, into existence, into the ether, it doesn't sound as good as it does in my head. How do I make my thoughts, or rather, how do I make my words that I speak sound as good as they sound in my thoughts, in my brain? Because when I start to speak and I start to try and articulate this thought, I lose the attention of people. I can tell that they're not interested anymore. They start to wander, right? They start to not really want to pay attention to me anymore. Okay. That's where this is going to come in. Okay. So fucking lock in. Okay. Now, let's just look at a bell curve here. Now, I know it says IQ on the bottom, but I want you to think of this as speaking ability. Okay, so on a bell curve of speaking ability, close to the bottom is where you have people that are really just not very good speakers at all, right? And we covered preparation previously in module number, what was that? One of the fundamental modules, okay? We covered preparation. Now, preparation is super important. Yes, okay, don't get me wrong. Now, on some level of speaking, okay, when you get really good at speaking, you've done all the preparation before, like way prior to you actually doing the speaking. So you don't actually end up having a script. You don't talk with a script, right? So let's look at this bell curve. So on the bottom here, you have people who are really poor speakers. I don't have a script. Okay, why? Because they just go up and they just say whatever the fuck. None of it is prepared, which is bad, right? They do very badly. Then as you get to the middle, you start to get people who realize, okay, preparation is important. I really, really need to prepare. No, preparation is everything. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. A script is always necessary, okay? So that's most people. Most people recognize that preparation is really important. And they will sit and rehearse a script over and over and over until they have it memorized off by heart, right? Then as you get to the other tail end of really, really, really good speakers, it ends up being someone who doesn't have a script as well. But they go up there and they're so athletic and flamboyant with their language, and they could just speak. And you're thinking, like, did this person memorize everything, or is this just their brain? Those are the best speakers. They go up there, they don't have a piece of paper, they're not holding their fucking iPhone and reading off of the script. No, they're just going. Because they've done the preparation, yes, but they've done it beforehand, off screen, off camera, off stage, just in their own time. They've done their writing, they've crystallized their thoughts, and they know exactly what to say. Okay, so this is the kind of person that you want to be. We want to turn you into this person who doesn't need a fucking script when they speak in front of audiences, let's say. Okay, now take me as an example, perhaps, for this, if you want. Because I prepare for my YouTube videos, but I don't read off the script. I don't read off any script when I'm doing my YouTube videos. It's just me and a camera. But I have written an entire essay on the topic that I want to talk about before filming the video. So the best videos that I've done have been me writing an essay on the topic a day before the video, and then I sleep on it. Remember the fundamentals, right? I covered this in the fundamentals. Go and do something else first and then come back, right? So what I do is I write the essay about what I want to talk about, get all my points, get it as crystallized as possible, edit it, change it. No, I don't think, it's not really this, it's more this. Edit, okay? And then I go to sleep, and I wake up, and then I film the video, right? I'll wake up, and then maybe I'll look through my essay again, and I'll be like, yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, cool. Boom, camera, turn it on, and I go, right? And then once in a while, if I feel like I'm straying off the topic with my camera, right, on one of the cuts, I'll just take a look at the essay and I'll go, oh yeah, no, so I kind of strayed over here and I kind of missed this point. Okay, let's see if I can circle back and cover that. Okay, cool, boom, done. And then I start recording again and I start talking again. And I never look at the script when I'm talking, okay? So that's where we want to get you to. That's where this technique is going to come in. So poor speakers will attempt to speak with zero preparation, okay? That's what we've just covered. Decent speakers in the middle of the bell curve will do preparation and then rigidly cling to their preparation whilst they speak. Okay, now the great speakers and all the speakers that you look up to will do the preparation and then they leave it off stage and they let themselves speak unconstrained. Okay, that is where the real magic happens. Now, the most captivating speakers, they bring you along a journey. Okay, as their thoughts shape in real time, they're piecing together a puzzle almost, and you feel like you're part of that process. You're watching them put together the pieces, and well, okay, this kind of goes here, and this other thing goes here, and maybe there's a better piece. I think this is a better piece. Boom, and they're taking you along this journey as they speak. Okay, so it's analogous to the speaker wandering around a swamp. Okay, so it's as if they're wandering around a swamp and they're trying to find solid ground, right? Or the stone path underneath all the swampy stuff. So they're stepping. Is there something solid here? Okay, there's solid ground for me to stand on here. Let's go there. And then they stand on the solid ground and then they test. Again, they test and they see, okay, and then, all right, here, there looks like there's solid ground here. Okay, I'm going to step here. So it's like you're in a swamp and you're trying to find the stone path underneath all the swampy, underneath all the dead wood and the trees and the river and the ponds and all this kind of stuff. Okay, so imagine you're in a swamp and you're looking for the next solid ground place for you to stand. You're looking, okay, well, it's not this. Okay, I think this looks solid. Okay, let's go there. And then you do the same thing. Next one. Okay, well, let's see where we can go from here. So it could be this, it could be that, but some people might say it's this, and my critics might say this. But then again, I read this and I'm really convinced that this is where the solid ground is. So then we're going to move there. And then we just repeat the process over and over. We're finding the next logical step from where we currently are. Okay, I'm just gonna take a sip of my coffee. So this is what great speakers do. They're taking you on this journey, guys. This is why you feel captivated, because you don't know where they're going next, right? They're going, and then they're playing with ideas in front of you, and they're going, well, it could be this, it could be that, but I'm really convinced that it's this. Boom. And then you go the next one and the next one, right? So the stone path technique is really, they're conducting an investigation. The speaker is investigating a question in front of you, and you're part of the investigation because they're looking at you and they're gauging from your responses whether what they're saying is making sense. And they're saying, well, it could be this, right? But it could be, and you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, well, it could be, right? And you're in there and you're part of the investigation, okay? So a crucial point that you cannot miss is that the investigation requires a question to begin. And it really requires genuine intellectual curiosity on the part of the speaker. You cannot do this technique if you yourself are not actually curious. So I mean this, right? If you're the kind of person, you need to reset this, okay? If you're the kind of person who talks already with an answer in mind, this technique is not going to work. And you're not going to captivate anybody. Because people are going to feel like you have already assumed the answer. And then it's not interesting anymore. It's like spoiling the end of a movie. Fuck those people, right? Fuck people who spoil the end of movies, because it just makes the movie not so enticing anymore. You don't feel engaged because you already know what's going to happen. You already know the ending. Okay? The best speakers and the ones that are really captivating are the ones that have themselves the genuine curiosity to be answering the question without assuming the conclusion already. They're still exploring, and you feel like you're part of that exploration, and that's what makes the speaking interesting and captivating. So don't assume that you know the answer. Even if it's something that you feel like you're well read on and whatever, still, it really does require genuine curiosity. Okay? You can't fake this. You can't substitute this with something else. You have to actually be curious to know where you're going. Okay? Now, the audience, again, they're captivated because they don't know where the speaker will step next. Yet they are brought into the direction, right? They are bought into it, right? So they're bought into where you're going. They're like, I like where he's going with this, and it's interesting. I'm bought in, and I don't know where you're going to go next, but I'm bought in. I'm interested. I want to hear more. I want to know where this is going, right? So they're curious. They are along for the ride, right? So this speaking technique is an adventure. Like, you are going on a verbal adventure with your listeners. Okay, and that's what makes this so powerful. Now, a question that you might be thinking of is, okay, Chris, well, how do I know if I'm standing on solid ground or if I've just fallen into the swamp, right? Because sometimes that's difficult. Sometimes you might think, you might be over here and you might think that you're on stone, but actually you're on one of these, right? And you'll start to lose your audience. So how do you know if you're on the stone path or if you fall into the swamp, right? So I would call this your articulation threshold, okay? So you can think of this like the point at which your knowledge and your preparation has met basically like a threshold, an end where it's very uncertain now. And you're basically at the limit of what you know. Now you can dance along that limit and try and find the next stone path, or rather the next stone on the path. You can do that, but you have to be just very cautious, right? You're on the line. That's where you're on the line between order and chaos, right? You're teetering on that edge. You're exploring a bit of chaos and seeing if you can bring it into order, right? So that's a process that you will always get to. Now, what you want to do in that scenario, because you're in a dangerous place, right? You're on the line between chaos and order. You're on the line between the known and the unknown in terms of territory, intellectual territory. So you have to pay very close attention to your body's physiological responses, okay? Men especially, we react physiologically quite a lot to just drives and emotions and things like that, right? You know what I mean? Like, when you're angry or, when you're afraid or whatever, you can feel things. You'll feel butterflies in your stomach, your hands getting clammy, a lump in your throat, tightness in your chest. Like, all of these things, right? You felt all of these things before. So pay close attention to your body's physiological responses to your words when you're at your articulation threshold. For me, I feel when I start to say things that I'm not sure about, I will get a feeling in my chest. It's a kind of sinking feeling. It's like a sinking inwards, and I feel weak. I feel, oh, like if somebody attacked me right now, I'm weak. I'm sunken in. Okay, that's what I feel physiologically. That's when I stop. Okay, so yeah, for me, I feel it in my stomach. Yeah, stomach and a bit. I would say actually say it's a little bit more chest, but it's more like maybe diaphragm, kind of in the middle. Sometimes it's stomach. Sometimes it feels a little bit higher. But nevertheless, I feel this weakening and kind of just sinking inwards. That's when I've hit my articulation threshold and I get uneasy and I feel weak. Okay, so that's when I know that I don't possess the requisite subject matter knowledge, expertise, or simply just the intellectual capacity and horsepower to push the idea further. Okay, so as I continue with the investigation and I keep asking questions, I say, well, so is it really moral? Well, and as I start to speak, if I feel this sinking feeling inwards, I know that I'm now not saying anything. I'm now just dancing in chaos and I have no idea like where the solid ground is. And I'm just swimming in the fucking swamp. That's when you have to shut up. You just have to shut up. Okay. Because that's when you start to lose people and you start to say things that you can't back up anymore. You can't substantiate them. So that's when you stop. Okay. So that's when I know that if I continue talking, the words wouldn't make any sense, or the words won't be my own. Meaning, this is a good one, guys. Real shit. You will fall prey to this because I fall prey to this too. You will start to say things because you watched some podcast or you read some book. You will start to use somebody else's ideas as patchwork for your absence of ideas. So you will not know what to think. And in that place, you'll just stick like, well, I read this book and he said this, but then you're going to take it like it's your own stance and you're going to start defending canon stances of somebody else and canon opinions of, other ideologies simply because you don't know. So just admit in these moments, just admit that you don't know, admit to your ignorance and move on. Don't use somebody else's words and try and pass it off as your own because it's an indefensible position, right? This is what I mean. The logic would be indefensible by me, right? You can't defend it. You can't substantiate it because it's not your words. It's not your thoughts. It's not your ideas. So if somebody says, well, what do you really mean by that? And and they ask you a question, you're fucked. You're fucked. You're just screwed, right? And now you're going to be trying to intellectually defend a position that's not even yours in the first fucking place. So don't do that, please. Like, have some sense, right? Protect yourself. Don't do that. So the words would become performative. That's another one, right? When you're at the point where you're at your articulation threshold, anything after that, you're going to be so self-conscious about what you say. And it's as if you're performing for somebody. You're saying words because you're trying to sound smart and you're trying to continue sounding smart in this conversation. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just admit your ignorance and move on. I swear I respect people so much when they can just admit that they don't know. I respect you way more than if you just try and come up with some bullshit that I know is not even your ideas. You just repeat something from some book, right? No, don't do that. Okay? Real shit. Because you'll lose me. You'll lose me and you'll lose the attention of anyone who's listening to you. Right? That's this. So these are the things that are going to happen if you continue trying to talk past your articulation threshold. Don't do that. Be careful with your speech. Be precise with your speech. Don't let things get to the point where you're using somebody else's words or you're just speaking with performative language, trying to sound smart. Don't do that. Look for the signals that your body will send you. For me, it's this. Okay, and you have to pay attention. You pay attention to how you feel when you're speaking. If you feel this uneasy and weak feeling, stop it. Stop it right there because you've probably hit your articulation threshold. Okay? So just again stressing at these moments, it is crucial that you stop yourself from going down that path any further. Either return to the stone path and try to trudge forward in another direction, or just flat out admit your ignorance and just pose a question to somebody. If you're in a conversation with someone, you say, well, I think I'm pretty ignorant about that, to be honest, but I'm wondering what you think about it. Boom. Go from there. Okay. So I'm going to talk about, because I just talked about returning. I'm just taking another sip of my coffee. So I just talked about returning to the stone path, right? So there's two kinds of returns that you can do. One is good. One is good for the audience and one is good for being a captivating speaker. And the other one isn't, okay? So circling is good. Checkpointing isn't Very good. Okay, so what's the difference? Both of these things are going to be returns to things that you've already said. Now, circling is used rightly to calibrate the audience's focus and to just verify if the question has been sufficiently answered. Okay, so if I open up with a question, the investigation starts with a question of, is euthanasia moral? Okay, well, yeah, whatever. That's like a whole different, it's a whole super difficult question, right? Or just moral, morally you have to answer that. It's going to be difficult. You're going to go down one path, and then eventually I might have to come back to various points, right? So I might have to come back and circle back to recalibrate the audience's focus. Right? So I might have to say, is it really your choice? Right now, I might have talked about whether, about choice and things like that already in my answer, but I'm going to circle back to asking the question again, just to see if I've sufficiently answered it. And if I haven't, then I can go down that path again, right? So it entails asking the question again, typically from a different angle, so as to address a different facet of the issue. So that's kind of what I did just now, right? I started with, okay, so let's do another question. Let's do, does humanity need religion? Right? And then I might talk about how religion provides a framework for morality, and absent of that, human beings are going to be thrown into nihilism because we don't have an overarching absolute moral structure, and we need those value structures to put guardrails on our actions. If not, we don't have something to rely on for concrete values, and because of that, if we don't have that, it's just a descent into chaos and nihilism, whatever. I might go down that whole route, and then I might repose the question, but I'll take it from a different angle. So I'll say, well, so then you might say, does religion really provide that solid moral framework? And so now I'm circling back to something that I've said, but I'm asking the question again, because I'm seeing, well, have I really answered that? No, I haven't sufficiently answered that. So then I can go again. Okay. Now it's just, again, it's a different facet, right? You're like taking like a diamond and you're just turning it slightly and showing a different face of it. And then you're going to turn it a little bit more and you're going to show a different face, and you're just going to circle just to get someone's focus back, right? Okay, so we're going to come back to this. So does religion really provide this moral framework? Is there an objective morality to be gotten from religion? Can we escape our subjectivity? I'm asking questions again, recalibrating. Okay, so that's circling, all right? Now think of it like returning to the first stone to see if there's another path from it that needs to be explored. This is a great way to think about this. Okay, so again, let's go back to this. You're going, right? Let's say you've reached over here. Okay, and then it's as if you go back to the first stone, right? So this is the first stone. We're just looking at it from a different angle, right? So we're on the first stone, and then we say, hey, are there other paths from this stone that I can traverse? Let's look behind me. Okay, yeah, there is actually a path there. Let's go there. Let's see what's over there, right? That's kind of what circling is like. You either pose the same question again, or you pose a question that is similar, that is revealing a different facet of the issue. Because a lot of these problems that you're going to discuss in your life they're going to be multivariate problems, right? They're going to be difficult. So that there's not just a one-stop shop that there's just one path that I'm going to go down. No, it's going to have a different path. You're going to explore that. So that's what circling is for. Okay. So circling can become necessary when you've reached your articulation threshold. Okay. So if you've gone down one path and you don't know how to go any further, that's when it's a good time to circle. Because again, going any further, you're just going to start saying shit that you don't know about. So now, circle back. Circle, come at it from a different angle. See if you can paint the picture, if you can piece the puzzle together in a different direction. Okay? Or if you're losing the attention of the audience, right? You're losing their concentration. So if I'm saying something, I'm going down this path, it's getting very esoteric and it's getting very, specific, and I'm losing people, and I can see that. People's eyes start to go somewhere else. People aren't really engaged. I will think, okay, maybe it's time for me to circle. Okay. Or if your path has hit its logical bedrock, obviously, right? Meaning you've gone down a path and you've hit a logical conclusion from that path, and there's nothing else to really say about that. Time to circle, right? Now, Contrast this with checkpointing. So checkpointing is the other version of returning. Think of it like a video game, right? When you get stuck and you don't know how to proceed in the game, like you fight some boss fight and then you die, what happens? You return to your last saved checkpoint, right? Or if you just get lost, you're trying to navigate in the video game, you don't really know where you're going, you're like, you know what, let's just go back to the last checkpoint. And you just click a button, you return to that save point, right? This is kind of like what you will do sometimes when you're speaking. If you're not sure about what you're saying, you might try and go back to what you said earlier as a checkpoint. Okay, so you're speaking and then you're waiting to solve for the next stone on the path. So you're like calculating what comes next. Well, I don't really know. And then now there's silence and awkwardness and I don't really know what to say. People are expecting me to say something. I'm still calculating what the next step should be. And to avoid the silence and awkwardness, you decide to return to a previous stone. Okay, so you're over here, you're calculating, okay, where do I go? It doesn't seem like I have anywhere to stand on. Let me just go back to what I said just now. But then I'm going to go down the same path again because I still haven't calculated this and I still want to go here. But I don't really know where I'm going with it. So I'm just going to return and then I'm going to say what I said earlier. I'm going to say the same thing that I said again down the same path, right? And then I'm just going to come back here and have to recalculate all over again. This happens to you all the time. Trust me, right? Like if you just think about it, think about all the times that you've tried to answer a difficult question. You're going to fucking checkpoint all the time. You're going to checkpoint and then you're going to say the same 3 things and then you're going to just go back and repeat yourself, okay? So here, you're not exploring any new facet. No different angle. You're not looking for a new path. You're just repeating the same point and there's very little added value, okay? So try to catch yourself early on checkpointing. I know it's difficult, but if you hear yourself say the same word or the same thing twice, try to either circle or just end off there. Okay, meaning try to reveal a different facet of what you're saying so that you can add more value with the next thing that you say. Okay, so that would be circling. If you can go and, you know what, let's explore a different side of this issue. So, maybe, what about this? Okay, well, what do I think about that? I think that maybe circle. Or if I'm repeating myself and I'm checkpointing, I will just cut myself. I'll just end off there, right? So sometimes you'll hear me say, you'll notice if you hop on calls with me, right? If I answer a difficult question and I say the same thing twice, you will hear me catch my checkpointing and you will hear me say, yeah, at this point, I just feel like I'm repeating myself. So yeah, at the end of the day, this is this. That's what I always do. I always call myself out. I say, yeah, at this point, I feel like I'm repeating myself. So this is what I think. Yeah, that's when I catch myself checkpointing. So you hop on our community calls, if you ask me a difficult question, sometimes that will happen. You'll notice that, okay? So that's what you have to do, okay? You have to catch yourself. Now, here are just some guidelines. Now, I know, yeah, this is a technique that really, like, just sitting around and talking about it doesn't do it justice, right? You need to go out and really give this a try yourself. It sounds simple. Like I can sit here and, show you these slides about it and it sounds like simple, but it's really not. It's actually really, really advanced as a technique. Okay, so it takes time to get good at this. I'm just going to give some guidelines for using this technique, right? Don't sacrifice clarity for speed. Okay, so what I mean by that is don't try to get through your answer very quickly. Not even answer, just don't try to conduct the investigation fast. People aren't there for the speed. They're not. People are not listening to you for speed. You don't go to a movie and think, I can't wait for this movie to end. No. You want, the movie is a journey. You're not excited for the ending. You're not like, man, you know what? I would enjoy this movie so much more if it was just on 1.5 times speed or 2 times speed, right? You're not doing that when you're watching a movie. You're not trying to get to the end. You're trying to enjoy the journey. And that's really what this is about, guys. Like, speaking can be so enjoyable for you and for the listener when you're conducting an investigation, when you're doing the stone path. So don't sacrifice clarity for speed. Don't try and rush to the end of your point, to some kind of conclusion. That's not what this is about. This is about getting to the bottom of things. So you really want to emphasize clarity. So what can you do? If you get to a point where you are encountering a lot of silence, you're not really sure, If you need more time to think, you can do something called whisper drafting. So whisper drafting is you have a thought and you want to express it and you want to make sure that you're going to express it well. You can sort of whisper it softly under your breath to yourself. So you can say, okay, yeah, religion doesn't really have the ability to, like, you can whisper draft it to yourself, hear how it sounds, make sure you can say it in the right way, and then say it out loud. So I think it was, who was it? Teddy Roosevelt? Or, yeah, one of the American presidents, I think it was Teddy Roosevelt, who was famous for doing this. So that's that. Or the pause. Okay, the pause is so good. Please just pause. Sometimes if you need to think, please pause. We're going to talk about this in another module as well. But pausing can give you so much more clarity on what you want to say. Don't try and speed into it. Just don't. Deal with the silence. Silence is fine. Don't think it's awkward. Okay, just pause if you need to. Or request time. Just say, hey, that's a really good question. I need a moment to just process that. Or just say, yeah, could you just give me a moment to just organize my thoughts? That's perfectly fine. Just request time. Okay. Don't ever sacrifice clarity for speed. Okay. Sometimes for me in a very intense or serious conversation, I sometimes take minutes to think before giving a response, and people respect it because they know how much effort I'm putting in to answering their question properly. I'm prioritizing giving them the best answer that I can. And for that, people will wait. Right? I've had conversations where I sit for minutes, like 5 minutes, thinking of a response. People will wait. Okay, so prioritize clarity. Now, action step, watch a great user of the Stone Path technique, who is Jordan Peterson, right? Just watch this. This is a lecture. This is a clickable link. I've also included the link to the lecture in the resources below. So watch this. You will see Jordan ask a question and conduct an investigation into that question over and over again. And he will circle and he will circle and he will circle until he's painting a full picture. Watch this, understand it, internalize it. Look out for the things that we were talking about in this video. Right? Look out for the circling. Look out for the questions, the investigation. Look out for him looking at his audience and seeing, judging based on the responses of his audience. How are you responding to what I'm saying? Is this making sense to you? If it's not, I'm going to explain a little bit more. If you're looking at me confused, I'm going to explain a little bit deeper so that it makes a bit more sense. Watch out for these things, okay? Make a post in the community titled Speaking Milestone 4 Completed after you've watched the entire video with your takeaways and your notes, right, on this speaking technique and your conscious or unconscious use of it, okay? One thing you can do, which I would suggest, but you don't have to, is try this out on yourself. Try not thinking consciously of the Stone Path technique, but try using it in a conversation or in, filming a video of yourself answering a question, and include your takeaways from that as well, like from the practice of trying to do it in this community post, okay? Otherwise, you can just make a post in the community titled Speaking Milestone 4 Completed after watching the video. Watch the video, give your takeaways and your notes and anything about your own use of it, right? Yeah, this technique is not something that you're going to master quickly, right? This module is meant to give you awareness of this technique, but for you to master this, you really need to practice it over and over and over again in your own life, okay? So I can only make you as aware of it as possible, give you some guidelines about it, and from there, you now need to apply this in your day-to-day. You now need to apply this when people ask you questions, okay? Because you're going to get a lot of questions in your life, people asking you all sorts of strange things, okay? So that's where you're going to apply this. And yeah, combine this with writing as well. A great thing for you to do is combine this with writing. Ask yourself the question. I do this all the time. I take out my phone notes and I write a question in the phone notes and then I try to answer it. Stone Path technique, just in writing, okay? So make this community post and I will see you in the next module, which is going to be about storytelling, okay? Effective storytelling and how that's useful, what that looks like, why you should do that, okay? So other than that, I hope that you can take away from this module at least the awareness and understanding of what the Stone Path technique is, why it's important and how to apply it in your own life and some guidelines on that to make sure that you use this effectively. Okay. Start using it. Let me know how it goes. Update me on the progress that you feel of yourself using this technique. Okay. I'm excited to see that. And I will see you in the next module of effective storytelling. Peace.